Okay, now we're going to talk about the respiratory and circulatory system and how they work together. So your central question is, how does the respiratory and circulatory system work together? We are on Learning Target 14, explain and model the organs and function of the respiratory and circulatory system. Okay, the respiratory system's main function is basically taking in oxygen and removing the waste, carbon dioxide. Again, we've talked about how living things and humans, we have to take in oxygen to cellular respirate in our cells, and then we breathe out carbon dioxide because it's a waste product of cellular respiration. Below is a picture of the respiratory system. We're going to go into a little more depth. Okay, the organs for the respiratory system, the pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, and diaphragm. Okay, so right here, you've got your pharynx, then your larynx. Okay, your trachea is this big, thick tube. You can probably feel it if you feel your throat. Comes down your throat. Then it branches off into the bronchial tubes. The bronchial tubes go to each lung. Okay, and I think I forgot to add that as an organ. I can't believe I did that. Okay, so another organ of your respiratory system are your lungs and also your diaphragm, which I will be going over. Okay, so those are some other organs for your system, for your respiratory system. Okay, if you'll notice over here, so basically we're going to breathe in oxygen. Well, that oxygen has to go from our lungs, and then it has to go to our circulatory system. It has to get to our heart. So one of the ways it does that is at the over here on the right-hand diagram. Let's see if I can scoot it over just a little bit. Okay. At the end, if you've noticed that the bronchial tube branches off into each part of your lung, and then at the tip of each of these little lobes that come off the bronchial tubes, the little branches, you see these circle things. Those are called alveoli. Oh my gosh, I can't talk today. Alveoli. Those are little sacs that will actually have what's called capillaries attached to them. The oxygen will go from the alveoli to your capillaries, and those capillaries will go to your pulmonary vein and back to your heart. So that's the main way that oxygen gets transmitted from your respiratory system to your circulatory system. It's also the way carbon dioxide goes from your pulmonary arteries, your blood, to your lung through the alveoli. Now, one of the dangers with smoking is that tar can build up from the nicotine, and it sticks to these alveoli. So then you don't have enough surface area to transmit oxygen to your heart. So that's where people can develop emphysema, and they can eventually die from a disease because they smoke too much. So do not smoke. It's very bad for you. Now, in order for us to take in oxygen and breathe out CO2, the diaphragm is I had the diaphragm, I wrote it twice. Just notice that. The diaphragm is a muscle that allows us to take in oxygen and breathe out CO2. So here's an example. This muscle right here that I'm moving is your diaphragm. Okay, it's allowing us to inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. Okay, so that's your diaphragm. Pretty important muscle. Exhale, inhale. Okay, so now we're going to look at your circulatory system, because we just kind of talked about how we need to get oxygen into our blood, into our circulatory system. We need to get CO2 or waste out. So your circulatory system's function is to have nutrients and wastes move throughout your body through blood. Blood is the main organ of your circulatory system. Okay, so we have different parts of our circulatory system. We have our coronary circulation, which is the flow of blood to and from your heart. So this is a picture of your heart. Looks pretty complex, but you're going to do an activity with, and you'll get to understand the different parts of this heart. Pretty much we have an atrium, which is the two upper chambers of the heart. Two upper chambers right here. You have a right and your left atrium. Ventricles are the two lower chambers of your heart. Here's your right ventricle. Here's your left ventricle. Okay? So we are a 4-chambered heart. Right here, in between those chambers, there is a wall that's made up of tissue that prevents blood from flowing between the two sides of the heart, because the right side of your heart is CO2 rich, means it has the waste CO2. The left side of your heart is O2 rich, which contains your oxygen rich blood. So there's a wall right here that separates those two chambers of the heart so that oxygen and CO2 don't get mixed up, because we want oxygen rich blood to go to the cells that we need it, and we want CO2 blood to go to our lungs so that we can breathe out CO2. So we don't want there to be a mixture. Okay, pulmonary circulation only deals with the blood that flows between your lungs and your heart. Pulmonary means lungs. And then the rest of your circulation is called your systematic circulation. That's your blood flow to all other parts of your body besides the heart and lungs. So that's a picture of, besides your heart and lungs, all these other arteries and veins that are transmitting blood to the other cells in your body. That's your systematic circulation. Okay, so the organs of our circulatory system are our blood vessels. We have 3 blood vessels, our arteries, veins, and capillaries that carry blood. Arteries, really easy way to remember, they carry blood away from the heart, so think away arteries. Usually these arteries are oxygen rich, except the pulmonary artery, and you're going to do an activity and you're going to figure out why a pulmonary artery is not oxygen rich. So when we breathe in oxygen, that oxygen has to go to our heart. Things that go to our heart are carried by veins. So a pulmonary vein will actually carry oxygen to our heart. Once oxygen gets to our heart, then our heart is going to pump all that oxygen-rich blood to the rest of our body. That's done in our arteries. And we actually have one big artery that does that from our heart. It's called the aorta. It's the biggest artery in our body. It comes out of the top of the heart and below. You notice it's red. That usually means it's oxygen-rich blood. So the aorta gets blood from our heart and it travels through that artery to the rest of our body. Now, veins carry blood to the heart, and they're usually carbon dioxide rich, except for the pulmonary vein, because I mentioned briefly the pulmonary vein connects your heart to your lungs, goes from your lungs to your heart, and since veins carry things to our heart, the pulmonary vein is the only vein that actually carries oxygen-rich blood, because we breathe in oxygen, it needs to go from our lungs to our heart. The pulmonary vein does that. In the same respect, the pulmonary artery is going to carry blood away from our heart to our lungs. Well, what gets put into our heart that needs to go to our lungs to be breathed out is CO2. So that's why the pulmonary artery is CO2 rich, and it's the only artery that carries CO2 instead of O2. So it has to do with the arteries and veins have to do with the direction of blood flow. Arteries are away from the heart, veins carry blood to the heart. Then you've got really tiny tissues that are called capillaries. They are going to connect arteries and veins. So remember when I was telling about the respiratory system and how the alveoli have to get that oxygen into a pulmonary vein? Well, they do that through capillaries. Capillaries connect arteries and veins, and that's what this picture is showing you right there. So capillaries will allow for oxygen and CO2 to be switched over from a vein to an artery. So capillaries are pretty important. And they're only 1 cell thick, so they're extremely thin. Here's another example, arteries away from heart. There's the capillaries that are connecting the arteries and veins. So you'll see a lot of capillaries on the alveoli on your lungs. Okay, the last thing we're going to talk about is what's in our blood that travels through arteries and veins. Well, blood is a mixture. It can be separated. It's separated by an instrument called a centrifuge. Our blood is also considered a basic, meaning it has a pH between 7 and 14. What's inside that mixture? There are red blood cells, which carry oxygen, white blood cells, which help fight infection. So whenever we get a pathogen or something that's going to cause an infection that comes into our body. Our circulatory system is there to protect it. It has the white blood cells. The liquid part of the blood is called plasma. That's where our nutrients are contained. So our blood carries nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, that's sugar, minerals, calcium. Those nutrients all come from the digestive system. And that's what gets into our blood so that it can go into our cells. So the circulatory and digestive system work well together too. Platelets are what's inside blood that help clot blood, so that when we get a cut, we don't just bleed out. It's going to cause the blood to the blood cells to group together and stop blood from flowing. So let's take a look at this picture so you guys can see. So inside an artery, because it's red, we've got red blood cells which are carrying oxygen right now. Okay, those are that circular disc right there. Okay, plasma, which is what's on the outside right here, these little circles, that's going to carry the nutrients. Okay, white blood cells are bigger, a little bit bigger, and they're different shape. Remember, cells have different shape for their function. So white blood cells are more oval in shape. They're going to help fight infection. And then you have platelets, which are right here. Platelets are very tiny, and they're going to be what help clot our blood. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is your blood types. So there are 4 major blood types A, B, O, and AB. Okay? Now, there's a really easy way to remember how to tell the difference between blood typing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw 4 circles. It doesn't matter the size because I'm not getting them the same size. Okay, move them around a little bit so they're not so close to each other. All right, so we've got the 4 different blood types. So we're going to say that this is, let me get my pen, give me a second, there we go. This is blood type A. This is going to be blood type B. This is AB. And then the last one's going to be blood type O. So we're going to say that in blood type A, and this is not true, but this is just an example so you understand. Blood type A has triangles. Blood type B has squares or rectangles. Probably can't draw a square very good. Okay, so if you have blood type AB, you have triangles and squares. And blood type O is going to be the clear stuff that's in your cells. Okay, so when you take a look at blood typing, okay, blood type A can receive blood from blood type A, and it can receive blood from blood type O because A has clear stuff and triangles. So O can give to A. Okay, A cannot give to B because B doesn't have triangles. A can also give to AB because AB has triangles. Okay, so A can give blood to AB and other people who have blood type A. A can receive blood from blood type A and blood type O. Blood type B can do the same thing. B can give blood to other people with blood type B because they all have squares. It can also give blood to blood type AB because AB has squares. Okay. B can receive blood. If you have blood type B, you can receive blood from blood type B, obviously, and blood type O because blood type O is clear and blood type B has clear. Now, AB, if we come to AB, we already know it can receive blood from A and blood type B. AB can also receive blood from blood type O because it has clear stuff in it. However, AB cannot give blood to A because AB has triangles and squares. So if it gives blood to A, it'll put squares in here and it will be rejected. Same thing with B. AB has triangles along with the squares. So it's going to put triangles in here and blood type B won't accept that. So AB can only give blood to another person with AB. O, if you look at, can give blood to anybody. But it can only accept blood type from O because O only has clear stuff. All the other 3 types of blood types, A has triangles, B has squares, AB has triangles and squares. We can't put that into O. So what we do is we've got what's called a universal donor. Okay, so if you can donate blood to anybody, that is called a universal donor. So the blood type that is a universal donor is blood type O because it can give blood to anybody. Blood type O can give blood to any type of person who has any type of blood. There's also something called a universal receiver. So universal receiver, boy, this is great. My handwriting is terrible. I should have typed it in. I apologize. Okay, the universal receiver can receive blood from anybody. The universal receiver is blood type AB. They can get blood from anybody. So, if you need a blood transfusion, you want to have blood type AB because you can get blood from anybody. That's why a lot of hospitals like to get blood type O for donations because blood type O can give to anybody. All right, so that's the end of our notes on the circulatory and respiratory system.